Somebody asked me in the comments, what day of semen retention am I on? I have no idea. I have no idea. I really don't. It's been so long. It's been so long that I stopped counting. And that's when you know you've embodied something. Is when you no longer count. Counting is very helpful, and using the left brain, using the left brain, using the mind to beat the mind, to transcend the mind, is very helpful in the beginning. Like if you're trying to meditate in the beginning, then you want to like structure it. You want to be like, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to do an hour, and you time it. And I'm going to do 1 hour in the afternoon, and I'm going to do 1 hour in the evening. And you time it and you keep track. Okay, that's 3 days in a row, 4 days in a row, 5 days in a row, 6 days in a row, 7 days in a row, 8 days in a row. And you hope that using your conscious mind that you're creating something that becomes subconscious. And when you stop counting, you stop analyzing, you stop putting things into numbers, then you know you embodied something. So in the beginning, when you're implementing a habit, time it, analyze it, keep track of it until it becomes subconscious, until it becomes the way, the Tao, the way it is. Like now it's the way it is for me, not to bust a nut. Even if I have sex with somebody, which I did, no nuts were busted because it just became a habit. It became a thing. That's it. It became a thing. There's no nuts busted here. It's just ridiculous at this point. It's ridiculous. Like what? Blow your life force? Like it's just so ridiculous. So keep counting. Okay, you may wanna, because the numbers and stuff and all that, that's for the ego. The ego wants to be like, wow, man, like accomplishment. Anytime it's accomplishment, it's just mental masturbation. Okay, anytime we're collecting a memory, because it's all finite anyway. Like you're finite, your human being is finite, everything you do is finite. Who you think anybody's gonna give a shit that you lasted on a NoFap streak for 563 days? You think you think anybody's gonna give a shit about that actually? You really think so? Nobody's gonna give a shit. Only you give a shit, and you don't really give a shit deep down. But again, I think maybe I stopped counting after it was before 100 days. I remember the last time, because I was making videos on it, I was doing the updates on a weekly basis. It might have been I don't know, it might have been over a year now. It might have been over a year, maybe 2 years, somewhere in between. But at this point, it's the way it is. Like it's like a duh. So you want to get to that point with any healthy habit that you implement in your life. You want to get to that duh moment. So keep tracking, have papers, and so day 1 check mark, day 2 check mark, day 3 check mark. But keep in mind, so as long as you're still counting, you're still attached, you're still in a state of resistance in many ways. The sooner you can stop counting and just being, the more at peace and at ease you will be. Like if you're saying like, man, I haven't smoked a cigarette in 21 days, and you're saying it to yourself, you're saying it to your friends, you're still addicted to cigarettes. Because why? What's addiction? The addiction is the mind. The mind is still hooked to the cigarette. So the mind is counting how many days I haven't smoked. Your consciousness is still locked into the cigarette. So if you're continuously still counting how many days you have not fabbed, your consciousness is still locked into the fab. Your consciousness is still locked into releasing semen. So you're saying, I haven't released semen in 21 days. That means my mind is still addicted. It's still addicted. It's not just counting how many days it hasn't done it, which in a sneaky way, the mind is implying that I'm gonna do it at some point, isn't it? If the mind's constantly saying, I haven't done it now in 32 days. That's the mind. It's a sneaky thing, by the way. Very, very sneaky the way the mind works. The mind is implying that at some point we're gonna do this, aren't we? That at some point we're gonna release semen at some point, because that's the mind, you see? So Sometimes it helps. Okay, I used to do this in the early stages of me always counting. It helps to release. It helps because if you're so addicted, if you're so obsessed with how many days you haven't released, you might as well go and release. Okay? You might as well go and release. And you go back, that's the way I did it. I always like to go about these things with the slow and steady turtle method. I'm no rush to accomplish anything because it's not an accomplishment, it's all a state of being. So like it probably took me a good year or two of counting my streak and then breaking it, counting and breaking, counting and breaking. Probably like a good year or two it took of that, until eventually it just like one time it was just like I stopped counting, just spontaneously happened, like a flower spontaneously grows in spring, spontaneously happened. That means now my mind, I'm no longer addicted to this because I stopped counting. So it may, be flexible with yourself. Okay, be flexible. If you're still obsessed with your streak and how many days, you're still obsessed with masturbation. You're still obsessed with releasing your semen, releasing your life force. All right, go and release your life force. What do you think is gonna happen? You're gonna feel the consequences because you've been in a streak. Let's say you've been on a 60-day streak. Beautiful, good energy. And then when you release, you're gonna be like, oh my God, I'm drained. Now that's gonna teach you. That's gonna teach you. So I think what happened with me over and over is over a period of counting a streak and then breaking it, counting a streak and breaking it, is every time I broke it, it brought me into a more visceral, deep realization of why I don't wanna actually release the semen. Every time I felt that energy drainage, not just instantaneously, but for the next couple of days, and the next day that I wake up, every time that happened, every time I broke a streak, it made me viscerally, deeply realize why that's not something I want to have in my life, releasing my life force. And I suppose eventually, after a series of experiences of streak and break, I guess at some point the desire fell. It was just like, I don't want to do it anymore. I don't want it. Like Jon Snow says, they tell him, you're going to be the king of Westeros, and he's like, I don't want it. I don't want it. I guess that moment of I don't want it happened to me. I think it just spontaneously happened and I stopped counting. And when you stop counting is you're no longer addicted. Until then, you might want to play around with the addiction a little bit. Now, don't be hard on yourself. Be flexible. So what if you break your streak? Yeah, it'll take a few days. The energy will be built back up again. Oh, but they told me after 90 days I'm gonna grow wings and they're gonna do Red Bull commercials and stuff like that. It's okay. There's no rush. Because if you're still suppressing, you're still holding on. Oh, I did 90 days, but man, it's been 90 days. You want to do it, so go do it. Right? Go do it. Go and indulge. And that experience will teach you. And then indulge again, and that'll teach you. And then eventually, spontaneously, you're like, man, it just falls away. The desire just falls away. Right? Same thing happened to me with meat. Like, I never ever went out of my way to not eat meat anymore. Just one day. And trust me, I was eating like a big giant salmon like this every single day. This was about a year ago. I stopped. Just one day, I was like, I looked at the salmon. I was like, I don't want it. I don't want it. It just happened like that. I was in the grocery store, I was buying my food. I buy day by day. I don't like to store stuff. And I just looked at the salmon. I was like, I don't want it. I don't want it. And it just happened. Never forced it, nothing. I don't even know when I quit meat. I don't have any. I'm presuming it's about a year ago. About a year ago, because just because of the association. The last time I was eating meat, it was really cold. It was really winter. So that must have been last year around this time when I was in Canada. Must have been. So, but I didn't count. I don't know how many days. I'm just now, based on memory, saying that it's been about a year. I never actually counted how many days or I stopped eating meat. It's been this. Never did. Because I just fell away. So that's the best way to handle addictions and desires. Let them fall away. So you play with them. You play with them, and then the experience teaches you. You know, like what's happening with solid food for me right now is I can see that slowly it's falling away on its own, but I'm not resisting it. I'm still eating solid foods every day. I had some jackfruit yesterday, and some baked potatoes, and bananas. Not very, small quantities of either, because now I'm at the point my body doesn't want like any big quantity of solid foods. So now I'm still eating solid foods because the desire is still there. I'm playing with it still, you see. But even the quantities are not big anymore. They can't be big anymore. It's just like now at this point I don't have to try. I don't have to be like, I gotta restrain myself. Only one plate, or only a small handful of bananas. I don't have to try that anymore, because over and over periods of eating large amounts of solid foods, feeling the effects, feeling the and the difficulty sleeping, and the big shits that come through, and like and the farting and the burping, over a period, many experiences of being mindful. Now I'm at a point where, yeah, it's still there. I'll have a little bit. All right, here, let's have a little small banana bunch, and a little portion of the jackfruit, and like a plate of baked potatoes. I can't eat anymore. It's not that I can try, but I that's it. You see, the mind-body complex is at a point now where that's where it's at in its desire systems. So am I gonna force it to be like, no more solid foods? No, I'm gonna continue, and each experience will teach me. Like, I'll see the more I feel empty and feel the niceness, and then I eat, even though it's not big quantities, and I don't feel as peaceful and as harmonious. Eventually, through a series of these experiences, I can see it at some point happening. Just like, all right, I don't want solid foods anymore. Be a liquidarian at this point, But I play around with these things. I play around with them. I find the turtle method to overcoming addiction and overcoming a habit that you not exactly want to keep in your life. I find it more sustainable in the long run than the rabbit method of, I'm gonna run a race, I'm gonna do a 20-day water fast, and that'll cleanse me of everything. That'll cleanse me of all my desires. No. And one of you guys sent me a message on Instagram, and we were talking about this, and you said you did like a 10-day water fast, and you hoped that would cleanse you of all your desires and all your food addictions and cravings, and you said here you are still indulging in all kinds of junk foods and meats and etc. It didn't cleanse you, did it? Because you tried to go about it in a rabbit way, and that's not sustainable. That's not sustainable. The rabbit's gonna get tired and it's gonna want to rest, and then the turtle is actually what's gonna win you this race eventually. So you do that with NoFap as well. If you're still like, oh man, like I really just want to go on Pornhub right now and look up, who was my favorite in those days? It's been a long time actually. I knew all their names too, man. I gotta remember at least one name here. There was a blonde chick. Her name was Brie Olsen, I think, or something. She was hot, right? So you look up your favorite porn star, and you're like, all right, so here we go. And then you feel like shit after. Make sure you really feel like shit after. Okay, make sure you really feel like shit after. Like, if you're feeling like shit, I'm saying, don't make yourself feel like shit, but I'm saying if you feel like shit and like you're drained, feel it. Like, I'm drained. Oh man, was better, wasn't it? Was this really worth it? And then keep doing that. So next, start a new streak. And then if you really feel like I want to break it. All right. How do you feel now? Again, energy drained. Oh man, I don't like this. All right. And so you keep recording this unpleasantness, the aftermath, the unpleasantness of it. And eventually it just falls away. You're like, man, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want it. You polish around snow. I don't want it. I don't want it. It just becomes like, I don't want it. Here. It's like, your mom's trying to feed you, eat, and you're just, I don't want it. I don't want it. It's a genuine thing. It's not coming from a place of repressing or a place of, like, I gotta do this for the common good or something. It's like, no, I just don't want it. I just don't want it. No, thank you very much. I don't want it. So yeah, hopefully this, illuminates you on your journey. I prefer to do these things, the turtle method. It seems to me more sustainable. With everything that I do, it just seems to me more sustainable to do it the turtle method. No rush. There's no rush from above. When you relax, it actually magically starts to happen. When you're clinging and you're trying to do things with your mind, you're trying to push, trying to use your will, things don't usually work out as well. And you end up going into these cycles of total restraint and renunciation, and then you lose your shit. Like one of you guys that told me you did the 10-day water fast and then you lost your shit after. You thought it was gonna cleanse you, right? But it didn't. Because you gotta work with the desire systems, and they take time to be cleansed. They take time to be purified. So go on about it with the turtle method, and you'll get further that way. Believe me, you'll get further. It'll be more sustainable, and it'll be more genuine. Okay? So, God bless you all. Thank you very much for your support. Everyone watching, all the Patreons, I love you. If you've got a couple of bucks a month you want to spare, we got a link in the Patreon down below in the description. You could also do one-time donations on PayPal. All is appreciated. All is welcomed. And Side Mobile at Instagram. If you want to talk about anything, do anything, video request or something like that. And until next time, may the force be with you.